Right, let's get that across there. Hey everyone, Ian, mate. How are you ready when I've only set this up 23 minutes? Fair play to you, mate. Fair play to you. Yeah, I don't know how many views we've got. Okay, well, I can see here how many views we've got. We've got 6 people watching. Um, Apologies that it's a little. I know my timing's been all over the place in the last couple of weeks. Basically, I was live on Ant's channel on Friday, when we were attempted to do some championship predictions. And bearing in mind that I hadn't had any time to go and research any of them, and it annoyed quite a few people in the comments, which was quite hilarious. So apparently saying we haven't got a clue. Well, that's the whole point of championship predictions. You're not supposed to know what's going to happen, really. But either way, yeah. So yeah, how is everyone doing on this fine Sunday afternoon? Hey, we got Sheffield Wednesday's #1 fan, Ari Acacia. How are you doing, my friend? Were you at Hearts yesterday? Because I was there. I didn't get a chance to see you. But yeah, we will discuss a bit of Hearts, and then maybe talk a bit about transfers. Because since Simon Adingra, we haven't signed anyone. Which, from our perspective, was from our perspectives, it's quite embarrassing. Sunderland, what are you doing? Let's see. Let's get through Acacia's comments. Can't wait to see you for the games coming up. She says, I'm good. That is good. Pass me regards on to your mother, by the way. And you and Nikki are class people. No, I wasn't. Okay. At Hillsborough. Right. Okay. At Hillsborough Park. Okay. What? You're there now? Oh, okay. Fair enough then. Let's see. Eddie, how are you doing, my friend? Let's see. All right. People need to chill about the result. Hearts played competitive games already. Yep, absolutely. Oh, goodness me. The season starts next week, and fighting for spots in the team. Thanks very much, Acacia. Right, let's have a look. Right, let's have a quick. Oh, goodness me, we're getting a few comments right in there. Right, Ian says, if Siddiqui is injured for a while, we need major squad depth. Feels like a waste of ambition if we end up playing Neil in midfield. I was there. No, I was there Friday and yesterday. Fair enough. Oh, right, you weren't at Hearts. Okay, fair enough. Good for you then. To be fair. Chris, my good mate Chris, who is a mag. Let's put it that way. But he's actually one that's fairly realistic. I'm frustrated with Isak on our transfer window. I can bet you are. And I can, for good reason, to be fair. Bit early today. Yes, the reason I'm a bit early today is because later on I'm going out to watch the Lionesses game. I'm not quite as passionate on women's football as I am with, say, men's football. But at the same time, it doesn't mean I don't want the lasses to do well. So I think the couple of lads were suggesting going out later to watch it. So and it starts at 5:00. So if that goes to extra time or penalties, then obviously it's impossible to set a time here because I wouldn't have been able to get to be able to stick to it religiously. Because I like to, once I've set a time, ideally I like to stick to that time and not push it back. Bless Ant, by the way, who I've been on streams with, because then I end up pushing his stream back. So I thought I'd best off do it now while I've got a little bit of time. So at least you aren't shortchanged if you wanted to watch me. You poor souls that have to sit and watch me waffle to the camera. But either way, that's why I thought I would do it now. So at least I've got a bit of time to sort of give it a little bit of chat and just talk about yesterday and talk about the transfer situation. But really, there's not as much to talk about this week because there just hasn't been quite as much going on. In case you're not going there till later. Right, okay. At Hillsborough Park as Casabian. Right, I'm guessing this must be a music gig because I am not big on music at all. At least Isak can revive his career going to Liverpool. Yeah, well, that's the weird thing because I know some Newcastle fans don't want to hear this, but while trying to be objective about it, I can understand their frustration. At the same time, Liverpool are a step up. And Chris knows this. I've said this to him probably about a dozen times. As much as they can be frustrated about it, I still believe, Liverpool are a step up from Newcastle. And that's not a slight on Newcastle. It's just that Liverpool are an elite-sized club. That's just how it is. It's like the same if someone left us in the Prem to go to, say, I don't know, an Aston Villa or an Everton. It's a step up. It's fair enough. How was Siddiqui injured when he came back on? I suppose because Dan Neil played so poorly, they needed to get him on. Who knows? Hello there, Patrick. How you doing? Really, really kind gentleman whenever I see him. No, really, hope you're doing well, mate. Eddie. Speakman and Gazolfi have to be cooking something special after this lull. Yeah, well, you'd like to hope so. You would like to hope so. Let's see. So much competition from goalie. All the promoted and relegated teams are interested in the same goalkeeper constantly. Yeah, well, I'm assuming that you... Yeah, spare me one moment. just give us a minute. Someone responded to Chris because he's asked us a question in here that really he ought to be asking us on a. Oh yes, man. Right, hang on. There we go. Just quickly responded to a message. But anyway, so much competition for a goalie. All the promoted and relegated teams are interested in the same goalkeeper constantly. I'm guessing you put I have a feeling you might slightly be talking about Aaron Ramsdale there, but we'll wait and see. Hang on. Let's go to this one. Acacia, this is her latest comment, I think. Is it the latest comment? Or is this the latest comment? This thing's playing up again for some bizarre reason. Right, there we go. And what's everyone's thoughts on Xhaka now, as Regis said after the game? Right, what did he actually say? Because I barely paid attention from anything from Hawks. I think my thoughts on Xhaka is I'm not sure how likely it is he'll come. Not based on any information, by the way. I know some people think I get info from the club. I promise you I don't. I get barely any info. I have the exact same thought process is the same as everybody else does. But either way, I think what's good is that if he does actually want to come along, then that's promising. That's encouraging. But at the same time, I think it also depends on how badly Sunderland want him in terms of paying a fee for him. So I don't know. Maybe it's just because I feel like I can't have nice things that he's not going to come along. But let's hope that does actually happen, to be fair. What has it said? Apparently it's still going ahead, but the club are still trying to get the deal done. It's not going to be an easy deal to sort out, I would imagine. But if Xhaka does want to come, then hopefully that actually ends in us getting him this window. Eddie says, Leeds sorted for a goalkeeper now. Burnley will be after one, though. I don't think they will be, to be fair. I think they signed a goalkeeper with the idea that he was going to be Trafford's replacement. Because obviously, for anyone who doesn't know, James Trafford looks like he's on the verge of going to Manchester City. I know originally he was linked to going to Newcastle up the road, but then I think it was Man City apparently have come in and swooped in and got him for a cheaper deal because of the buyback thing. And then I think they've just pretty much waived any sell-ons by just getting him at a cheaper price. Casey says for Xhaka. Yeah, I mean, obviously, look, we need to. Ideally, we need to get that sorted. And I think yesterday kind of highlighted it really. But there you go. Eddie says, I missed that. And that's fine. Happens to everybody. SJ, as soon as Ten Hag piped up, the price went up. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Ten Hag. Let's put it that way. As a character, I think he's quite arrogant. But there you go. Ian Brown says, Reggie says he wants a player like Xhaka or him in this window. Yeah, I think to quickly touch on Reggie's comments before I talk about the Hearts game itself, because obviously I travelled up to Scotland for that yesterday. I think one of the things that Reggie said was apparently that we need, what was it, like a bit of experience and whatnot. And I get that. I understand why people say that. But at the same time, I'm still getting quite sick of that being used as an excuse whenever we don't win. Because if that's the case, then we shouldn't be winning any games whatsoever. Because, we can't. So for me, we can't just ignore experience when we win games, but then highlight it when we lose. Because it's like, well, need to look at it both ways, in my opinion. But having said that, to contradict myself here, I do think we need a bit of experience in the middle of the park. And I think Xhaka, and it has to be someone who can contribute as well, obviously. And I think Xhaka would do that. Personally, for me, I still think we made a mistake not signing Henderson. But if we get Xhaka, it doesn't really matter too much. Right, let's quickly talk about Hearts, because we're going to have to. If you watch Jam Sani's video, I'd recommend you go and watch it. He's summed it up more succinctly than I will here. But basically, at the end of the day, you can fall in sort of two camps here. It was shocking and it was absolutely appalling. I think it felt to me a little bit like we were going through the motions in that game. And I understand that, and as Eddie pointed out, Hearts I think they've played 2 or 3 competitive games already because they have this weird format in the Scottish Cup where they play a couple of group stage games before going into the first knockout round, which to me is ridiculous, but there you go. That's pretty much how their season functions and how it works. So I think with that in mind, Hearts were probably always going to be quicker and sharper. It doesn't mean it's excusable from Sunderland, obviously, but, Hearts were just quicker to the ball, quicker to every intensity, quicker to the tackle. And I thought they were more physical. I thought they just bullied us, to be honest. I thought we really struggled to match with their sort of intensity in the way, and you could tell Hearts wanted it that little bit extra, but obviously the caveat is it's Craig Gordon's testimonial. That's the main point of the fixture being taking place in the first place. So as far as I'm personally concerned, I think that they've got as Ian's just said here, Hearts have had more game time over the last couple of weeks, plus their season starts next week. That's true. But like we said earlier, and like Eddie said, they've already had a couple of competitive games. And he says, and supposedly they have a huge squad, all vying for spots next week league start. Yeah, exactly. So I think it is frustrating from Sunderland. And all of the goals were poor ones to give away. But I think, as I said before, but the caveat always is it's preseason. And I try very hard not to look too much into that. It is preseason. And look, we've had good preseason. The year we went down under Dower David Moyes, that year I think we had a pretty decent preseason. We had a pretty good preseason from what I can remember. But then it ended up being a horrendous campaign. So it happens just because you can have poor results in preseason doesn't mean it's going to be a bad one. It's the same. Newcastle's preseason apparently isn't going very well, but that doesn't mean anything once the Premier League kicks off. So, and it's the same for any team, to be totally honest. So we'll wait and see. Does Sunderland not have the heart last night? Well, last night we did because we played yesterday afternoon, mate. But yeah, during the game we absolutely did not. Eddie, yeah, exactly. Context. That's what matters. That doesn't mean you have to accept yesterday. Obviously, it doesn't mean that that's acceptable from within the group. But at the same time, it's all about what we do in the next couple of weeks in the window. That's really important to me. SJ fans will be just worried, thinking we've been found out already. Just bully us and we fall apart, panic. Not necessarily the case because we've managed to deal with games when teams have bullied us before. And the SPL is a very, very physical standard of a division. But obviously the caveat is that the Premier League is going to be physical and the standard is going to be much better than what it would be in the SPL. So, but at the same time, the caveat to that caveat is that I do think we will sign players between now and West Ham, or I'd like to think so anyway. But yeah, it's just whether let's just see what happens, SJ. It's obviously good to have concerns, but I think being worried too much, I think, doesn't do much good, really. We've just got to wait and see what happens. But obviously, if this happens in the Premier League, then it's fair enough to panic, I think. Fact is, nobody likes to see us lose, says Eddie, and the next game is always the most important pre-season or not to fans. Yeah, well, I don't know if there's anybody in this chat who's watching, or anyone who's watching or in the chat that's going to Hull on Tuesday. I'm at work, so I won't be, but I'll be keeping an eye on the game. So obviously, I'm not going to be going to Hull, but I think it'll be good to start seeing better performances, and we'll wait and see. What happens with that. I think over the next few preseason games, we want to start seeing better performances. We want to start seeing, the players gel together better, start to play a bit more regularly. How yesterday we pretty much had the main team of what we've got available so far to us now. We had that for the last, for the first 60, 65 minutes. And then the last 25, you could tell we were just like, yeah, this is just basically the run out. We'll just put a bunch of kids on with a couple of fringe experienced players. So, yeah, I'm keen to see how we get on at Hull. And obviously next week against Betis, and then the week after that against Augsburg and Rayo Valencio. But, West Ham is where the real important stuff starts. And that's where we need to have the bulk of our transfer business done. Ian, squad depth is key. If any of the players get injured, there is no backup who I think can step with the Premier League. Currently, that's the key word. That's the key thing there. Eddie, do you reckon Neil's going to sign on? No. Personally, now, I think that we're at the point where if in the next week or so he doesn't sign a contract, I think you need to look at selling him. Now, people can say he's the captain, but if that's the case, why is he not signing a new deal? This really isn't excusable from either side, from the club or him, for this to have gone on anywhere near as long as it has. And quite frankly, I'm quite annoyed and quite angry that this is still going on into the last year of his contract. I don't know what the circumstances are. Have we offered him a very poor deal? If that's the case, then you have to look at the club for that. But at the same time, based on Neil's performance yesterday, I don't think he's got any right to haggle over a contract, really, for me. And to be honest, I thought Neil was particularly poor yesterday. And I don't like singling players out in that sense, but I have to call it as I see it. I do think Neil was all over the place. I think Neil all over the place yesterday was in midfield. He got bullied. He got pressed relentlessly. He made a couple of nice little decent passes, but he was just non-existent in the middle of the park when things got tough. And I think that's where if you're haggling over a contract and you do that, you don't have much sympathy from my perspective. We'll all have to come to a head. So, yeah, exactly. It's going to have to come to a head one way or another and get resolved because, I'll be asking questions of Dan Neil massively here. Why have you not signed yet? I refuse to believe Sunderland haven't offered a much more competitive salary to what he's on. But you got to bear in mind, we also have to bear in mind that the club also have to look after themselves here. And Dan Neil is a Sunderland fan himself. I know that obviously he's a professional footballer, and of course you want to get a contract that sees you up for life and stuff like that, and you want to increase your wages and everything else, and that's fine. That's more than fair enough. But don't do it to this point. Don't do it to a point where you're haggling over it religiously, and then you do that. It's like, well, come on. Sorry, Eddie. I'll get onto your comment in a minute. But Eddie Seller's like, at the minute, I'd probably be tempted to sell him, if I'm honest. If this isn't, and the similar thing with Sirkin, to be fair, like if these contracts aren't going to get resolved, then you've got to sell them, in my opinion. And I've got a feeling if Xhaka comes, a part of me, and this might be me putting 2 and 2 together and getting 5, but I wouldn't be surprised if Xhaka coming meant Neil leaves. I've just got, it's based just on a gut feeling, nothing inside information. Ian, none of the Northeast teams can beat the Scottish. Middlesbrough, SCFC, and the Mags drew or lost. Yeah, well, yeah, fair enough. None of us can beat them. I mean, Middlesbrough should have won. Apparently, they were 2-0 up, weren't they? But again, it was all about the day out, really, for me. Couple of decent Middlesbrough fans on the way back, though. Good, decent crack on the train back. We'll sign some players, says SJ when Bowers goes to work on Tuesday. Yeah, well, I'm going out later to watch the Lionesses, so let's see if we sign someone then. Or at least get a here we go from Fabrizio Romano. Even when that happens, though, I'm going to be a bit sceptical after the Lorienti stuff. Eddie, he and his agent want probably similar numbers to new signings. Well, I don't think they have a right to do that, though, because they haven't proved themselves at Premier League level yet. If they'd been in the Premier League with us last season, then I could, and they performed well, then it's fair enough. I understand it then. But what right has he got? If that's true, by the way, because obviously Eddie just says probably, he doesn't say definitely. If that is true, then I think that's really poor from them, because you don't have a gut. I understand wanting a lot more. I think he's still on his he's probably still on the contract he signed in the first year in the Championship, contract extension then. But I understand that you're wanting to have an increase, and that's fair enough. We've got promoted. Of course, you should have the right to an increase, but there is a limit to that. And if you're wanting similar money to number to new signings, then I wouldn't give him a new contract, because so far he's not shown enough to me to earn anywhere near that amount of money. And that's if that's true, by the way. Obviously, I know Eddie said probably and not definitely. Patrick, I think Neil is going. Yeah, I'm starting to think that myself now. Let's see, Ian, if Sirkin and Neil don't sign contracts, sell them now, especially if they can leave for free next season. Especially with Neil, from a PSR point of view, that's the thing, right? The things with Neil, with PSR, it's pure profit, isn't it? Because he came from the academy. And I think that could help us. If selling Neil helped us get Xhaka, for example, or if selling Neil helped us get a really good goalkeeper in terms of PSR. I mean, apparently we're in a really good PSR situation from what I've read. Apparently we could spend next to another 100 million, really, without even being in danger of PSR. But again, I don't know how true that is. That could be I'm not necessarily saying that's gospel. But yeah, I would agree with you on that. SJ, what will we get for Neil, though? 10 million max, in my opinion, and that isn't enough. Yeah, I can see that. I personally would be disappointed if we got below 10 million, even with a year left. But obviously, this is why I wanted the contract situation sorted, because you don't get into this situation. A good example is like with Job, for instance. We signed Job on another contract last season where we got him tied down until 2028. And then by the time this summer came along and we got promoted, he had 3 years left, which enabled us to get a much bigger fee. So that's where when I've talked in the past about contract lengths and what length of contract players on, this is why I talk about it, because I'm not just looking at the next season. I'm trying to look 2-3 years down the line. So this is where, for me, this is really important. And I think it's a really understated part of football for me. But I agree with you, 10 million. Well, I'd probably take 10 million if we were offered it now, to be fair, given his contract situation. Acacia. By the way, just to be clear, I am just speculating here. I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. So if something comes out that I might end up changing my mind on that, we'll have to wait and see if anything does come out. But chances are nothing is going to come out until this is resolved one way or another. Acacia, when I saw Daniel at the airport the other day going home, I was going to ask him if he was going to sign a new deal, but I didn't want to be rude or say anything to him. Acacia, to be perfectly honest, even if you had asked him, he would have given you a generic answer anyway, because obviously it's got to be about. He's got to maintain a certain image when he's contracted to the club, hasn't he? Acacia, as I didn't want to ask him in front of Pato and Simon Moore, because I was going to ask him, I didn't want to get him in trouble by asking him. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. No worries. Carl says, how's it going, mate? Did you get my picture I sent you last night on Messenger? Yes, I did, mate, but I was travelling back from Edinburgh at the time, and I was just talking to the lads, really. So we'll see. But thanks for sending it. Ian, the club thinks his love for the club will be enough for him to sign a new contract and not demand too much for wages. Neil, yeah, and obviously that's a bit naive if they think of that, but I also think at the same time Neil could meet with a middle ground as well. And they haven't done enough, but everyone wants to cash in on Prem stays. I get that, but again, they haven't done enough to currently warrant. If he does want the same amount of money as new signings, then that's not fair reflection on him. Because while I like Dan Neil and I'm a big Dan Neil fan, I think at the start of last season he was excellent. Well, sorry, not the very start, but the first half of last season, I genuinely thought Dan Neil was really good, and I think he is underrated by some of our fans. But at the same time, there were patches where he did struggle considerably, and I still don't think if he's asking for that sort of money, if he's asking for the sort of money, and again, this is if the key word here, in case anyone tries to get the niggers in a twist, if that is the case, and Dan Neil is trying to get more, as same money as new signings, he needs to be dominating games in the Premier League for me to be warranting that. But again, the caveat, to be fair to Dan Neil, the caveat is we haven't seen him in the Prem yet, so we don't know if this would how that would go down or anything. We'll have to see. Carl Maggs in a meltdown loan. Yeah, well, I suppose we can't say now. We got smashed off hard, didn't we? So we'll see. Thing is, Neil doesn't want to go anywhere else and play top level football as a first teamer, let alone get more money than what we are offering. Oh, sorry, he doesn't go anywhere else and play. Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's something he needs to consider. Drift to the Mags, 2-2 now. Oh, yeah, they're playing Arsenal at the minute, aren't they? I completely and utterly forgot about that. Okay, well, fair enough then. I wasn't aware of. I completely, I knew I had got message that they were playing, but I'd completely forgot about it. Conspiracy, who cares about the Mags? Let's just put it this way: they're obsessed with us as well. But yeah, so I think I get it. Look, I get it. I don't want to be talking about Newcastle constantly because we're talking about Sunderland mainly. But yeah, let's not kid ourselves. Both sets of fans are obsessed. Ian Brown, haven't seen 30 million out of Diarra yet. Pre-season still, mate. This one, I mean, we don't need to see it instantaneously within 2 games. I think that's what I mean. No, look, I mean, I probably haven't either. But again, it's pre-season, so we'll have to wait and see. I feel like I've said that a lot. I feel like I've said that a lot in the first couple of minutes, the first 20-odd minutes or so. But yeah, I think Diarra, but like I said, I mean, I don't think it's fair to exclusively blame Diarra. And to be fair, I can't exclusively blame Dan Neil either, to be consistent, because I think everyone was shocking yesterday. I don't think anybody really covered themselves in glory whatsoever. But yeah, it is what it is. I mean, like I said, on last thing on the Hearts game, as I said, I mean, look, it was great to see the reception for Craig Gordon and what he ended up doing and for the career he's had. But oh God, hang on. Let's have a look. I don't think we are. You might be. I promise you, mate, I'm not. But I don't see our fans all over their content. I genuinely forget they exist sometimes. Put it this way, mate. On social media, whenever Keith Downey puts something about the Mags, there are quite a number of our fans in there, to be fair. So I'm not entirely sure that's fair, but I get your points. Look, we don't want to become obsessed over them. But what I would say is, even when we were in League One, the Championship, there were a lot of their fans obsessed over us. So it's like, not a massive club, apparently. But there you go. Either way, let's see. SJ Diarra hasn't played enough games yet. Exactly, bang on the money. Drifter, somebody mentioned them in the chat. Yep, they did. Let's see, John L. Do you agree we need to be in the Premier League a few seasons and a waiting list for season cards? What was it? Sorry. Do you think we need to be in the Premier League a few seasons and a waiting list for season cards before thinking about stadium expansion? Yeah, possibly. I mean, I do think there would be a demand for it. I know that some people like to think there isn't because we don't fill out the stadium, but I think at the same time, I think there would be if we're going to be in the Premier and established. But it frustrates me that because I'm like, well, where were they in the Championship? I get it in League One, but in the Championship, I was like, nah. I think you could have. I mean, obviously, and by the way, I would phrase that if you have the time and money for it. I mean, that's what I should say. Obviously, everybody's circumstances is different, but if you've had the time and money and you don't go, then I'm like, if you're a Sunderland fan, I mean, obviously, but I don't know. I'm just kind of waffling today, really. Conspiracy essay. I'm never there, so I wouldn't know how. Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Let's see. The big stage will show Misery's make or break, even though it is a big step up. What I would say, Ian, is if he doesn't dominate games straight away, don't write him off. I'm not saying you're writing him off, but don't write him off if he's not immediate success. Although at the same time, in the Prem, we do kind of need to we need to hit the ground running, don't we? So, but yeah, whether he's got it or not, I'd like to think we'll have spent that sort of money on him because we think he can do it. Whereas apparently there was someone in Newcastle shirt at the heart saying, yes, this is what I mean by obsessed. Why on earth, as a Newcastle fan, if you're doing that, either you're doing it to wind the fans up, which, hey, fair enough, it probably works. But, like, why, if you're a Newcastle fan, you think, do you know what? I'm going to put a Newcastle shirt on and go to a Sunderland game. Like, I don't, I'll never understand that behaviour, but that's just me. Each to their own. It's their life. Eddie, no expansion, but they can get those spotlights back on the roof. Yeah. But yeah, no, it was a great reception for Craig Gordon, and I love seeing how well regarded he was by both Hearts and Sunderland fans. It was really nice to see. Really, really nice to see. So, but yeah, the game itself was cack, wasn't it? I can't beat round the bush. It was absolutely terrible. So that's just, in a way, and I stress could here because we need to make it a good thing. What could happen potentially is that it reinforces the notion that we need some bigger signings. Now, I think the club knew that anyway, but I think this kind of re-emphasised the idea that we need a couple of, because I still think we need another half a dozen signings for the squad for the Premier League, maybe even 7 or 8. To be honest, then you just think, well, so I think it could reinforce the notion and hopefully get a bit more urgency to get deals done. I'm not saying there isn't urgency at the minute, but like it could hopefully speed things up a little bit. But maybe I'm looking too much into it. As if you need to hit the ground running, why recruit mostly young players? The thing I would say is, just because the young players doesn't mean they can't hit the ground running. And I know you're not saying that, but it's a fair question. I think that's, put it this way, my caveat would be that's probably why we're going for Xhaka. Or we want someone who's got experience within there. And I think you got to remember, like, well, I suppose again it's one of those, isn't it? Because I was going to say there is some players with experience, but Premier League experience is different, isn't it? So yeah, it's a catch-22, I suppose, Ezzy. But we shall see, won't we? Hopefully, Xhaka signs in that sort of combats the young signings. Well, Diarra, Xhaka, and Siddiqui. I think Lafay will be behind Mendo. We're going to be strong midfield. I hope so. SJ, because younger players are cheaper, future sell-on fees. Yeah, this is the thing. This isn't just a Sunderland thing. And I know that some Sunderland fans, I get the impression that some Sunderland fans feel this is just a Sunderland thing, but I promise you it's not. Like, a lot of clubs are going down the route now of signing younger players with the idea of, like, so with again, PSR, FFP, that they are trying to get to the point where they can sell players and improve their financial position to then invest in other deals. So that it's a general thing. This is how football is generally changing now. Unless you're an elite level club, that's how it's always going to be, I think, regardless of whether you're in the Prem or not. Macamon was in the Thane South sponsorship deal for Tampax. That's random. Poor Thane. Maybe just because Thane's not here. I'm slightly worried the closer we get with what we have, but I have faith. Yeah, don't get me wrong. If we started with this squad predominantly in the Prem, I'd be very confident we would go back down. And even if we do strengthen, it's still going to be a challenge anyway. But like defensively, we need reinforcements, especially at centre back. Let's see. Was hoping Brentford to go down as have been weakened, but also can't see him going down. Who has Henderson in there? It depends really, because obviously I've seen what's happening with Wissa. And if Wissa goes, which it looks like he's not training, so unless there's a resolution that he comes back to training and starts for them, then if he leaves, as well as Mbeumo and Norgard and Thomas Frank, even with Henderson signing, I'm a bit like, it's a lot of goals to replace, put it that way. But and if this was us, we'd be saying exactly the same thing. So I don't know. It's interesting, isn't it, though? I would have liked us to sign Henderson. I think he'll be a huge signing for Brentford, but Brentford at the same time are one of the teams that we want to try and catch, don't we? And I don't want to mention the Mags again too much, but I wouldn't complain if the Mags ended up signing Wissa, because it's not them we need to beat to stay up. It's the likes of Brentford and Wolves to a lesser degree, and to a lesser even degree West Ham and Leeds and Burnley. Clubs like that are what we need to be looking to try and finish above, or who we're looking to try and finish above. SJ, we can't just fling money about and not think about PSR. Exactly. This is the thing. It's a shame, really, because I know there are people who would like us to just go and fling money and spend what we want, but sadly, that's not reality. You can't just do that anymore. I wish we could. I bloody well wish we could, but we can't. That's why I wanted him. Can't see a team going down with Xhaka either, mind. Yeah, that's fair. I would have liked Henderson for that reason. I think his experience would have been huge. We've been thinking about PSR and sustainability model since Kyle came in. Yep, no, that's true, SJ. We have done, and this is why I think we're in a good situation with PSR right now. I think that's probably because it's because we've been so careful with what we spent that I think we're in a good position now to be able to go and spend the money for the Prem. But yeah, like you said, we have to think about PSR these days, don't we? But this isn't new to us. We've been thinking about this for the last 3-4 seasons. Eddie, out of Jordan Henderson, Xhaka, I would prefer Xhaka. 3 years younger and top level last few years. That's a fair comment. I'd have liked both of them, but I don't. But we will never. It's always going to be one or the other, isn't it? If we were going to get either of them. I'm not Brett. I'm not worried. There is no jeopardy from these friendly games. Once the season starts, we will turn it on. Remember the last 6 games last season. Very true. There was always the talk about whether we could flick a switch or turn it on, and it was a fair comment. But I got to the point where I was sick of hearing it in the build-up to the playoffs. And in the end of the day, we proved that we could do it. So, but obviously, it's going to be a massive ask. But I do have faith we will. I do have faith we'll get players in. Conspiracy. We still need 100% need a striker with 15 plus goals with him. Can't see Meander or Wilson achieving that. Yeah, I get what you mean. I think the thing is with Isidore, I still like Isidore, but the weird thing is that in the Premier, when it's instinctive, he probably does quite well. When he has time to think about what he's going to do, generally he tends to not do very well with it. I mean, the goal away at Coventry in the playoffs. I mean, to some degree, I was surprised he scored that because of how much thinking he had to do about how he was going to place his shot and what he was going to do to try and beat Ben Wilson in the Coventry goal. But at the same time in the Prem, we're going to have a lot less chances unless teams come onto us so much that our transition enables some really good chances within a game. So, but yeah, I would like a striker personally myself. Yeah. Golden Twist, love that name. Western Australia here. Yesterday was a bit of a setback, but let's learn from it. Absolutely. I think that's what Regis Fabrice will be saying himself. Actually, this is exactly why the Mags can't spend like crazy. They've backed themselves into a corner with PSR and now blame the top 6 cartel. It's their own fault. To be fair to Newcastle here, it does seem a bit dodgy because I think last season they didn't spend all that much because of PSR. So they should be in a better position to spend in theory. And it does seem a little bit iffy to me that Man United, despite having no Champions League football, can sign Mbeumo, and other clubs who have finished much lower than Newcastle can spend more than them. But I don't know their full situation. I'm not going to pretend to. So we'll see. We'll stay on probably for another 10 minutes or so, guys, because after that I will have to head off. But yeah, let's quickly go into any more comments. Let's see if we can get the likes up. Come on, we've got 62. Well, as of right now, 62 people watching. And fair play to every one of you, considering this stream was ridiculously short notice. It's still a testament to me. I'm privileged that enough people want to watch me. So it's really appreciated, honestly is. And if you're watching and you're not subbed, and you think my efforts have earned a sub from you, obviously, then hit the sub button because I want to try and get a 7K next. Obviously, we're some way off it at the moment, but hopefully we can get that. We can sort of decrease the gap to it. Unless we get the likes up. Come on. We've got 24 likes. Let's see if you can. All you got to do is just hit the like button. That's it. Just hit the thumbs up button below, and that'd be really appreciated. I think it helps the algorithm out, apparently, from what I've heard, but I don't know how accurate that is. I've just seen a link to a video when I did after the Coventry game. It's quite funny. Let's have a quick Q&A for the last few minutes. Is there any questions you want me to answer? Fire some questions away, and let's have a laugh. It could be some silly ones as well. Let's lighten the mood a little bit. Let's see if we can actually have a little bit of a giggle really before I head off, because obviously I'm going to be very busy with a couple of things I need to get done, and then then I'll be heading out to watch the Lionesses game. And what's the prediction for the Lionesses game actually? Do we think that they'll win it? And I believe they're playing Germany. Is it all right? Is that right? I'll have a quick check just to make sure I've actually got this correct. I probably should have looked at this before I started recording, but yeah, let's see. England. Joe would help if I could type England correctly, wouldn't it? Not England, and yeah. Jesus, I'm having a belly. No, Spain, sorry. Why did I say Germany? I wonder because Spain play. Anyway. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, Eddie's just corrected me. Thanks very much, mate. It is Spain. Actually, the other clubs have better financial streams than the Mags. I bet Man United's merchandising is massive. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Man United are still a very big global name, aren't they? And I think that's what's going to help. I'm not saying Newcastle are tiny globally, because they're not, but like Man United are just bigger. It's as simple as that, really. It goes to penalties. He'll be there till 2 a.m. Oh God. Aye. Just have Wilson Isidore keep trying to take penalties. Right, Chris, there's 3 teams to get relegated from the Premier League. It's hard to call that. Right now, I'd say Burnley. I'd say Brentford. And the last one is one of Leeds, Sunderland, West Ham, or Wolves. But I couldn't call which one at the moment. Back on our mission. It is true, rumours Thane wears heels and a red thong on a weekend and calls of Julia Roberts. Oh, poor Thane. Poor Thane. What a guy. Yeah. That's an image. Thanks, mate. That's an image I'm not going to get out of my head now. Yeah, that's pretty lovely. Hang on. Why is this Face ID thing not working? I'm just having a quick check on Twitter to see if anything has happened that I'm looking towards, but I don't think anything has happened yet. So let's see, or anything new has come to light. Let's see. Come on, Fabrizio, give us a here we go or something, and I can react to it on air. Watch this happen though. As soon as I go out later, something will kick off. Always happens. Always happens that way. Yeah, the last thing I'll quickly touch on, like transfers. I think we're. Oh, let's have a look. Leeds won't be anywhere near. That explains it. Leeds fan, fair enough. Leeds won't be any. Right? Why do you think that? Out of interest, because if we're talking about how big the gap is, we have to include Leeds in that conversation as well. You might not be, by the way. You might not be. I mean, I think Leeds and Sunderland have a well. If Sunderland get some good defensive recruitments, then I think Leeds and Sunderland have a better chance than people think. But I'm keen to see what you think, and I mean, like, without taking the mick or anything, like, why do you genuinely think that? And it's not. And I'm just curious to know your opinion. Eddie Speakman and Godolphy. I love that. Speakman and Godolphy gone on holiday, I think. Yeah, I don't think Godolphy as much. I think he'll be constantly doing deals from abroad. So I would imagine that he'll still be. Well, it might be. He might be on holiday doing transfer business at the same time, mightn't he? But we'll see. Eze says, very well run club. See, I think we are. So I think if you're going to apply that to Leeds, then I think we have to apply that to Sunderland as well. But yeah, I do think Leeds, to be fair, I like the look of Perry and Stack. I think they're two good signings. The only but Eddie says a point for Leeds. I actually think Farker is the big question mark I've got, and I'm in two minds about Farker because he didn't have the resources at Norwich that he will at Leeds, and the second season at Norwich in particular. Well, the first season they didn't spend much, if anything, and the second season, Emi Buendia was their best player at the time, I think, or one of Norwich's best players, was sold under his nose. So that ultimately put them on the back foot straight away. So I'm curious to see how he does at Leeds, but I'm not sure tactically he's good enough. Where I can see Sunderland potentially do better than Leeds is the fact I think Reggie Labrise will adapt to the Prem a little bit better than Farker will. But for all I know, Farker might adapt well. I can't guarantee that. Just because it's my opinion doesn't mean it's going to happen. So we'll see. SJ Eze, the Leeds fan. Because they've finished 200 points ahead of us. Yeah, we start on minus 24 points already. So we'll wait and see. Let's see. Yeah, some of those comments are hilariously bad. Like, oh, well, we finished 24 points behind Leeds and Burnley, so automatically we're going to do worse than the pair of them. But yeah, Talby has disappointed me so far. Yeah, he's not been great to me either, but he's still going to be adapting to England, isn't he? Obviously we can't use that as an excuse for everyone. At some point, you do have to click and show things. But I believe we said we were going to sign more players in his position, so I think he won't be starting anyway. SEB, I wanted Farker out, but I trust the 49ers. That's fair enough. Do you think Farker will be there within a year's time? Because I'd be very surprised if he is, personally, but I could be wrong. Darby's only 20, let's write him off. To be fair, I don't... Oh my God, why is this not working? There we go. I don't think he's being written off, but I know what you mean. But I agree with you. Let's not write him off. I think we'll just have to see. We'll have to see. It just depends how much time he needs to adapt and to get grips with the game. But, Eddie, oftentimes the playoff club does better than two autos. Very true. Not the last two seasons, obviously, but I know what you mean. I know the context of what you're saying. Not to say this time, but it happens a lot. Well, I'm looking at who was the last time? When was the last time a playoff team stayed up? When Norwich, Watford, and Brentford went up 4 years ago, I think. I think Brentford stayed up, and Norwich and Watford got relegated, didn't they? And Brentford won the playoffs. So it's a weird one because I also think Leeds and Sunderland are targeting, and to some degree Burnley, they're targeting better players than, say, Ipswich did last year. Because Ipswich basically went, right, who's the best of the Championship, and we'll sign them. And I get the impression they signed players to go get promoted this season rather than stay up last season. I'm not saying they didn't want to stay up, obviously, because that would be stupid. But I mean, like, they primarily realistically expected to get relegated. but they think they've got a chance of bouncing straight back up, which isn't necessarily a bad strategy if it works. As a yes, Farke has been backed. We'll wait and see, mate. I have question marks over how good Farke is tactically, but I wouldn't be surprised if even if he started poorly, that Farke gets sacked and you bring someone else in. It might be better. Just depends. Eddie, Villa and Forest. Interesting. What, you think they'll both get relegated, or what do you mean about that? We'll wait and see. SJ. Wolves, yeah. I think Wolves and West Ham, the mood's not great at either of them clubs, is it? But obviously they're established, aren't they? So it's tricky. Is it true every male on Tyneside has erectile dysfunction? Oh my god. Well, I did say silly questions, didn't I? So, yeah, I can neither confirm or deny that. Oh, sorry, Eddie. Right, I know what you mean. Right, no, both came up by the playoffs. Yes, they did. Who was the last two teams to come up by the playoffs? It was Luton and Southampton, I think it was, wasn't it? So, yeah, we'll wait and see. Right, is there any more quick things you want me to talk about? Because when it gets to about 45 minutes, I will have to head off. But thanks to everyone who has been watching, though. Like I said, let's see what the likes are at the moment. Once I can actually get on the YouTube app. Come on, where is it? We were on 24 last time. 30 likes, right? Come on, let's see if we can get to 40 likes. Come on, we can do it. 40 likes. So we already got to 32 likes straight away. Like I said, I'll be on for about 3.5 more minutes. But yeah, let's see what we can do. But yeah, no, I think you are right. Both Villa and Forest did come up through the playoffs. I think what my personal gut instinct is, where I am not confident, but where I've got a gut feeling is I think Burnley will finish 20th. I just think losing Trafford if he goes to City will be massive. I think losing Egan Riley's massive. I think losing Brownhill's massive. I don't know what the hell's going on with Brownhill, by the way. Somehow he still hasn't signed for any club yet. But I think, Esteve looks like to sign a new contract, and that's massive for Burnley, given how important he is for them. But I think Burnley will be finishing bottom. I think Parker's Prem record's really, really poor. And I think Leeds and Sunderland will both finish above Burnley at the very least. But obviously, whether it's enough to stay up, I don't know. Thanks, mate. That's much appreciated. Much appreciated. Eddie, I think we will give it a good shot this season. Yeah, I hope so. Hopefully, good shot means stay up. But again, we know how hard it's going to be. But at some point, this buck has to be broken. This trend has to be would it help if I could talk properly? I think this book the trend has to. We have to book the trend at some point. This trend has to be broken about promoted clubs going straight back down. I think the one last thing to sort of really, I think the last thing to sort of comment on about that is when you look at the last 6 clubs that were in the Prem. Burnley lost Teller and Harwood Bellis due to loans. Sheffield United lost Sander, but had a terrible window where a lot of Paul Hockenbottom had a lot of key players sold under his nose, I think. Luton obviously weren't expected to do anything anyway. Ipswich signed most of the Championship. Leicester lost Maresca at the start of last season. And then Southampton had Russell Martin, who seemed determined to insist that they play out from the back in the Prem when their players would have been nowhere near good enough for it. So there is caveats to it that I think a lot of people miss when talking about the last 2 seasons when the promoted clubs went back down. I think the promoted clubs this time are learning, all of their fans will be hoping, learning from the lessons of the previous clubs to give a better shot of actually staying up. Let's see, 39 likes, Bowers. According to this, I'm on 38 likes. Come on, just 2 more likes, Howie. 2 more likes, we can do it. 1 more to go. Let's have a look. SJ, we need to spend as much on the defence and the goalkeeper as we've done on the midfield. Is it? I actually rate Parker. Fair enough. I like that. Fair enough. I am sick of Michael. I'm guessing you mean sick as anything. We are short every part square. Sorry? Thought you said he was sick of me for a minute. I wouldn't blame you if that was the case, but there you go. 43 likes. Wow, okay, fair enough then. Right, guys, I think I'm going to end it there. That's probably the best. That's probably the most amount of time I've got because I need to go and get a few things done before heading out for the Lasses game later. I saw Eddie saying Spain will win. I think Chris said Spain. I said we were playing Spain. So yeah, let's wish good luck to the Lionesses today. Let's hope they can actually bring it home and win it. And yeah, like I said, whether I come back next Friday or Sunday, I promise you I will do a video at some point next week. The last thing I will say is, I think over the next couple of weeks, I'm probably not going to bother doing a Premier League predictions video because, spoiler, most people have Leeds and Sunderland and Burnley to get relegated anyway. And I haven't watched anywhere near enough of the Prem to have enough substance to talk about the Premier League in the last few seasons. I will still do a Championship predictions video because I'm quite I want to do that as a neutral. I want to sort of say that and then I can have a no preconceived biases, as in with Sunderland being in there or anything else. But yeah, I will do a video about predicting the championship, and we will talk about it. So take it to it and watch the penalties. I like it. Cheers, Ryan. Thanks very much, Eddie. Right, guys, I will love you and leave you all there. Thanks very much to everyone who has liked and watched. And if there's any new subscribers, that's much appreciated. And yeah, see you all next time. Take care, stay safe, and as always, away the lads.